Hello, Danielle. Welcome to our conversation about reconnecting with your career in Australia.
Hello, Cema. Thank you very much for this invitation. It's my pleasure to be here.
Yes. So, Danielle, it's my pleasure also being here with you, talking to you, because as a newcomer, you could reconnect with your career in Australia. Is that right?
Yes, it is. It is
We
right.
want to know everything, how you did it, because there are many newcomers wanting to reconnect with their careers in Australia, and many of them cannot do it or have been not being able to reconnect with their career. So would you be keen to share a little bit about your experience back home, starting from where you come from, and what made you to come to Australia in this journey, transitioning to a new country and reconnecting with your career?
Absolutely, yes. Well, I'm from Peru. I was born in Peru, in South America, and I decided to study engineering. I initially started studying civil engineering, and after 2 years into that career, I realized that it wasn't what I most liked. So I shifted to mechanical engineering. And after finishing mechanical engineering, I did my graduate program working in an oil and gas company. This was an American company with an operation in Peru. I stayed there for about six years, almost 7 years, and I moved after that into mining. There was a big boom in mining at the time. So I worked for about 2 years in mining. And after that, I thought just with family, wife and kid, I should probably looking for a better place, a safer place where to grow my kids, where to raise as a family, where to raise my kids. And with my wife, we decided to look for opportunities. I started looking where to migrate, where we could live and work, and submitted about 80 applications, not
Probably
18, but
eight
80.
eight zero in Australia.
It was actually, I applied to different countries only for those jobs that had similar requirements to the experience that I had.
Mhm.
So I wasn't just, shooting everywhere or with anything. It was just jobs that I felt I had relevant experience to perform those jobs. So this was not done in a day or two. This was done in a period of about 10 months.
Mhm.
And and during those 10 months, and on these 80 applications, I think I had 3 job interviews. And it was the final one who gave me, or gave us the opportunity to migrate. After getting the job offer, it took about 2.5 months to do all the migration paperwork and relocation
Mhm.
until we were, um, working, living and working.
Yes. Oh, that's nice. You start from home to come here. So getting this job, how was your expectation before you come to Australia, and then after you come to Australia, and then the reality?
Yeah. So first, looking for a job, I thought it was going to be easier. They People talk about first world countries. There is a lot of work there, lots of job opportunities. I said, okay, I'll take one of those opportunities. But without previous experience, without proving that you could do that job or could do the job better than a local person, employers would not hire you easily. So that sort of a dream was shocked with the realization that I was submitting already 7 applications and I haven't heard anything from these employers. And then another one, and another one, and I'm already on number 10 and number 11. And I just didn't give up. So I had to drop that expectation, the realization that finding that job was not as easy as I thought. During all that time, we thought we were prepared for, the migration, the big change. We learned English because in Peru, English, very few people can speak English fluently, communicate in English. So that expectation was sort of met, checked to the language, checked to the research on how is the country, the weather, the city, check. After getting the job, we thought, okay, we made it.
Life is easy now.
Yeah. And again, that was another realization that we probably didn't do enough research. All the expectations that we had about, being in a new place, being in a new house, we relocated from, a house to another house and to another house in Peru. It was not like that. Completely different culture. The society was different. The shopping was so different. The neighborhood, the schools, and at work. Starting with the language, we thought we learned English. We couldn't understand anyone because the accent, the pronunciation was so different to what we were used to. It took us days to actually adapt our ears to someone new that we met for the first time until we got familiar with, the intonation and the pronunciation that they had. And then met a new person and took us another day or so. That transition was difficult, was very difficult. We thought we were prepared for that. Reality is we were not.
Mhm.
And it takes a while. It takes a while. And without that guidance, without that book telling you, okay, this is what's gonna happen, this is what you're gonna feel, you just find, that that you didn't expect something. There was always something new. A dream crashed with something that happened that day.
That's right. And you said about the English that you thought you knew how to speak English. And then it was something that many newcomers face, that when they don't have the English, the full fluency, and happened to me as well. Like, you spend the whole day speaking English at work and then coming home and just disconnect from English and they say, no, I just want to talk in my own language and talk to people that I feel comfortable talking to, right? Because it's every day is a struggle. It's so much effort to get everything, to understand everything, to say everything. It's so much, isn't it?
It is the phrase second language. And in Peru, we speak Spanish, and you do it unconsciously.
Yes.
When you come to a new country like Australia and you need to talk in English, you cannot do it unconsciously. It's going to take years of practice until you do that. You are constantly translating every single word by word, phrase by phrase, into English, and it's so tiring to do
So
that.
tiring. And especially when you don't understand the slang, you don't understand the colloquial, so you don't know when people are really joking, unless they laugh, you, oh, what is that, right? You never know. So for you, coming to this organization that offered you a job, you came as sponsored by them or came in a contract only? What happened in your case?
We got what is called a working visa. now visa numbers have changed
Was
over
the
the years.
487 that time?
457, I think it was.
457, that's it, 457.
457. 457. Yeah, that was the working visa, which doesn't exist anymore, I found out.
Yes.
So the company provided that sponsorship, and I had a sort of an agreement that for 2 years I would work with that company. They paid our relocation. If I left the company, I would need to pay back that relocation. And as part of that negotiation and part of that transition into this employer, I mentioned that we would be looking for an additional sponsorship for permanent residency for me and the family. And they accepted it as long as it wasn't going to happen as soon as we arrived. It was going to happen after a year or so, which they met that expectation, that commitment, and they provided that sponsorship as well for the permanent residency. So that's how we started doing that process. That's one of the ways of migrating into Australia and getting some sort of a security, job security, and life security that you can be in the country, legally in the country, right?
Yeah.
It's not the only one, but it's what we did at that
So you,
time.
yeah, and that time, I think the time when you came here was a very common period that would happen that way, having a sponsorship from a company, because as today, we have a very shortage of skilled migrants or skilled workforce. So, and they are thinking again to reopen the visas to help people to come and fulfill this shortage of skilled workforce. So that time was very strong, 17 years ago. That's right, when you came?
2006, that's correct, 17 years ago. Yes.
That's right. So, and then working with this company, how long did you stay with them, and what was your next step?
Well, this place when we arrived, it was difficult, challenging, a bit remote. The agreement was 2 years before we could leave the employer, and I think we stayed there for 2 years and maybe 3 months.
Mm.
And we were sort of free to move out of that employer. Don't get me wrong, please. I highly enjoyed what I was doing at work from a career point of view, from a personal development point of view as well, because I was adapting to a new, culture, working culture. It was just being in this remote area that made it challenging for the family, especially for the family.
So you're doing FIFO?
No, it was living,
area.
living in the remote area. Yes.
Okay.
I prefer not to mention where, because
No, don't
some
need
people
to.
may
Don't need
some
to.
people may be living there.
No, it's okay. So you are from Lima, or you are from any other part of Peru?
I was born in Lima, and I was also working FIFO most of my time in Peru, to different places. So oil and gas was in the forest, and the mining was in the mountains. But always living in Lima, my family was in Lima.
Yeah. So back to the challenges. What were the main challenges for you? One was the language, that was you thought you knew it. The second was completely different culture regarding everything, not just one thing. What else was a challenge for you in your family on the early days of your migration?
Oh, I remember. The very first thing that we did was opening a bank account, and I thought, oh, we've done this before, so let's go to the bank. Couldn't understand the teller, the person in the bank. that was my first exposure to English. Is this English? Is this just in this area? And paperwork. So, okay, you know, you have a driver license. I didn't yet. So I had my international driver license. Okay, no, this is not enough proof of identification. So a passport. Oh, this is in Spanish. You have a translated one. Yes, I have this. Is it official translation? So all just the ID part of the bank. And banking is almost common across different countries. 17 years ago, there was still a lot. There was no app on the phone. There was
Yes,
no
you had to go
iPhones.
to the agency, talking to people, queue there and wait to someone to talk to.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. There was no iPhones, no apps, that sort of things. So that was, the first small challenge. The shopping, you know, for the house, because we had to buy furniture, we had to look for a school, we the neighborhood, all even the food. I remember the food. I was bringing all this big lunch to work, and everyone was looking at me. Is that what you're gonna have for lunch? I said yes.
Who knew?
I couldn't have a bigger container. So really, uh, because in Peru we have a big lunch and a small dinner.
Yes.
Here is the opposite. So they didn't know that, and adapting to that. I wanted to look like everyone else. So I was starving. After lunch, I could only eat a bit.
Couldn't even concentrate anymore.
It took me a while. The human body adapts to almost everything, but yeah, studies for my daughter at that time. The education system was, different, similar but different. There was a lot of things that I knew how to do, especially in maths, how to do in Spanish, but not in English.
Uh-huh. Hey, Daddy, teach me here. I learned this in Spanish. How can I say this in English? That's right.
And at work, the biggest challenge was adapting to the culture. It is so different. The way you give instructions, the way you receive instructions, the way you interact with your colleagues is so different. A colleague of mine told me only a couple of weeks ago, being a leader in South America is so easy. You just give an instruction and expect that everyone will comply. And here in Australia, you have to engage, you have to, negotiate, and and it is better. I find it better, but it's just adapting to that difference. It is a challenge, especially when you want to get things done, and you just start sharing and instructions, and people look at you and say, what is this? What happened?
That's right. So you talked about the adapting to these roles, because many newcomers, when they come, they are so desperate to find the first job in their field, and they believe that job will solve all their problems. And normally I say to them, it's just the first job, and you need to choose wisely, because that first job can become very, very demanding on you and your personal life as well, because you don't know anything about the system, and you think everything that you come from, where you come from, is adaptable there. You can transfer some of these skills, yes, they are transferable, but they are another component that you need to understand, that is living and working in a new country that you don't know. So how was for you? How did you feel in this new role, completely in a completely different country? Despite was the technical skills that you had, your qualification, but how was for you performing in that job?
It was difficult. Not long ago, my wife and I were reflecting on everything that we went through at work, and my wife was reminding me, remember those days when you were coming home so tired, frustrated, saying first, you didn't understand what they were talking about. Second, you felt that you didn't belong there. It was just like someone different, completely different to the rest of the team. It was difficult, challenging to adapt, to sort of transform on onto someone you are not, just to become part of the team. And trying to identify not only, okay, I have this job to do, but now simultaneously I need to better interact with these people, because what I'm saying, it doesn't stick, doesn't get the attention that I used to find back home in Peru. So it's just this extra load of uh, concern at work. What is happening? So I just wanted to do my job, but now I'm unable to effectively integrate with the team, and
I mean, how did
it
you
can
feel?
create a big frustration.
A frustration.
I Yeah, it can create a frustration. Um, you can easily just give up, saying, this is not for me. This is probably not the job that I thought it would be. Um, Probably made a mistake in my career. Probably that this career only works well back home in Peru, not in Australia anymore. All those thoughts come, to to your mind, came to me at least, and it took me months, maybe even a year, to adapt and to slowly change the way I was interacting, the way I was leading a team, the way I was communicating with my one up, the way I was presenting something to the team. It was so different. And I'm not talking about just the English, the language, or the accent. That's
No, it's a
secondary.
communication skill. Is it how you communicate with yourself, with others, and also when what you understand when people are talking to you, right? It's one of research that the Job Australia Skills Australia did, and they asked many employers who advertised jobs last year online, and they came with the question. From the jobs that you advertised, how many people could you get to fill out these positions, right? So they want to know if all the advertisements, if they got people qualified for the position. And they said less than 50%. Why? Mainly because the number one skill that people don't have, communication. People don't know how to communicate their ideas. They don't know how to communicate intercommunication as well. They don't know how to receive information, how to process information, how to pass on information. So communication was the number one. Number two was planning. People don't know how to plan. Third is project management. Is not just having a certificate, but you're not able to project anything, to manage anything, even your desk, right? Let's say this way. And the other one was writing. People don't know how to write. They may, again, communication. They don't know how to read and interpret a message. And research. They don't know how to research to solve a problem in front of them.
Mm.
So these are the skills that people need to bring to the workforce, to the job when they want to get a job. And it's not just people as migrants, anyone. And they found that even the people that come here, the newcomers that come to study, to do master's degree, they leave university not having these skills with them.
Yes, that is so right. And communication, if you add the difference in culture, in language, etc., it just drops. The communication skills that you may have, or that I may have in my country, now dropped considerably, because I'm in a different place, in a different culture, different language. So in writing, or talking or even reading. Why did I take so long reading this, document? Because it was not in my, first language.
Yeah.
And yeah, it is challenging, and it's, adding this translation
Yes,
that
all
you
the
have
time.
to consciously that all the time.
It's so demanding. So, Danielle, there is something that I call as a second-class citizen syndrome that newcomers have. Did you experience this kind of situation when you saw yourself less than others that you could not be part of, and you couldn't even think about how you could get out of that situation that you put yourself in? Did you feel any of this kind of less than others that time?
Yes, yes. And to tell you something, Cema, I I always consider myself, you know, uh, of high drive, tenacity, difficult to give up, um, thinking that everything is possible, that there is no limits for anyone. Um, I still believe that, but there was a period where I really, really challenged that thought, thinking that probably this is different, probably this doesn't work here, and that's when we came. In Peru, as I said, I felt that I could achieve anything that I wanted, and it was just a matter of putting the effort, and dedication, investing time into that. But when we came at work, I thought that everything was so difficult, so different, so challenging, and I thought that dream probably stayed back home in Peru. Have we made the right choice? I did feel, I did feel that I was different. My society probably was no match for an Australian society, and
Mhm.
it took a while to overcome that feeling. It took a while to realize that no, it is just you know an obstacle, an additional challenge that is in front of us. But it is possible to overcome this, and especially if you have the right guidance and support,
Mhm.
things things could become a lot easier. It
That's
was
right.
just being by yourself makes it harder, more difficult, more challenging. Mm.
And you coming with your wife was a support that you had by your side. And you mentioned to me before that your wife is also a professional, a skilled professional. And when you came here, probably as many migrants, you went to work and then she started with the kids to settle well the family in this new environment. Did she was she able to come back to her profession, or she decided to stay home and have a different life in Australia?
That's very true. That's a very good topic to that the one that you bring. My wife is chemist, and we both used to work back home in Peru, even when we had our kids. When we came, I'm blessed really to have her because she's the one who had to deal with most of the challenges regarding the house, the neighborhood, the school, while I was focusing all these big challenges at work only. She had to do all the shopping and sort out all the things that were coming in the mail and insurances that we didn't even have in Peru, didn't exist in Peru. And it took her about maybe 2 to 3 years to reconnect with her profession before she considered going back to work. It took us a while to sort all these things out before she said, "Okay, how about I also look for a job?"
Mhm.
Um, and that's when we also moved. Um, into the city to look for those opportunities as well for her. But it was not easy, probably not as difficult as it was for me because she was already here like 2 or 3 years to understand all these differences. Just facing this different culture at work was a bit shocking as well for her until she had to adapt again.
Okay, so but then now your kids, they are now teenagers, young adults, they have adapted well, right? They were raised here, so they have the two cultures. Part the house is Peruvian, part of the house is Australian. So how is the environment in the house? Like, is the communication?
Yeah, well, we communicate in Spanish for the kids. There was always a challenge. Probably the biggest challenge for them, especially for the youngest one, it was to learn English because the two youngest ones were born here in Australia, and Spanish was their first language. But that first language was not as difficult as if it was for me and my wife.
Uh-huh.
They learned English at school, and it took them a couple of weeks. Now they speak perfect English, but we still speak Spanish at home. And there was a period where they were pushing to speak in English, and we had to push back. No, we speak Spanish in this house.
Well done, well done. They you thank you later on when they have this Spanish so nice and speaking fluently, right? Because it's one thing is speaking, another skill is writing, and I believe as any or and any second generation of newcomers regarding the language of the parents, they speak, but writing is something else,
It
right?
is. It is.
Good. So, and you went straight to asset, or did anything else before you decide to be in the specific niche of mechanical engineering?
Oh, that's a good point. Mechanical engineering, as many other careers, have a very wide variety of areas: energy, design, materials, or asset management. I started working, well, I did two, how do you call this, short periods of internship while at uni during the holidays. The first one was in construction, looking at materials, and I enjoyed. The second one was in maintenance, doing maintenance of mining equipment, and I loved it. I said, this
Mm.
is what I want to do. Again, without being 100% sure, I just said, this is what I want to try. This is what I want to do in the beginning and see how it goes. And I went into that area and I loved it. So, as many professionals, I have 80% of my studies that helped me just on the foundation level, but then never apply those, technical uh, uh, guidelines, let's say, or parameters in my area of expertise.
And then until when did you work for someone else, like work for an organization, until you decide that you want to do something on your own?
Yeah, I at the age of 29, probably, uh, I was doing FIFO, fly in, fly out, and I was in a roster of 8 and 6, working 8 days and having a break for 6 days back in Peru. And it was during those 6 days that, with a colleague of mine, we decided to create uh, a business, a consultancy business. And I started doing that and realized that it was a lot of work, hard work. So I was working 8 days with my employer, about 5 days in this business, and just having a day, to spend with the family, a full day with the family. And I did that for about, I think, 10 months. And I said, okay, I did enough to realize that this is what I love doing. And before I retire, I will I will become a consultant by myself. Or I will do my own company. So I sold the business, sold that small company after doing three jobs, and put that in my career goal, my career plan at the age of maybe 50 or so to become a consultant. So it was before that I had the opportunity to take a redundancy package, and that's when I started the journey. I left. I used to work. I wanted to work while I was working with employers. Um, I was chasing big companies, oil
Mhm.
and gas or mining companies, and after leaving that, after taking my redundancy package, I looked for a consultancy company, a big consultancy company, where I can learn everything that I had to learn before having my own business.
Well done.
So I moved to this consulting company, and then the consulting company was taken over by a bigger consultancy company. And after 2.5 years in total, I I said, I think I know enough to do my own business. But you never feel 100% sure. You never know 100% before making a big decision.
Otherwise, it'd not
It
be
is
fun.
exactly right. So it's that element of
Yeah.
uncertainty that
If everything
that makes
was
it interesting.
if everything was dot to the point, right, from A to B, what's the point? That is like the journey. It's so rich, and it's life, right? Ups and downs, and learning and adapting, correcting until you get there. Because otherwise, you just get there, and there is no excitement. Because what comes after that? Nothing,
Yeah,
right?
absolutely. And you may have heard about Tony Robbins. Tony Robbins created this model of the six core needs. And
Yeah.
one of them is uncertainty. You need to have a level of certainty, but also to make your life, you know, interesting, you need to have a level of uncertainty.
Yeah.
So I think within me, that need of uncertainty is probably a bit higher than maybe for other people.
It's part of the journey, Daniel.
Exactly.
So when you mentioned about Tony Robbins, and is that the reason why you became a coach too? Because now you help others as well in your industry, how to succeed, how to make the best of their own career. Is that right?
Yeah. Yes, it is. It is. And that was part of my plan, part of my journey. I said, if I'm gonna have, my own business, what do I need to know? The technical part is a given. You need to know what you're gonna do, right? But as a person, now responsible for other people, is sort of a being a leader, but also being, an owner, and you have other responsibilities. You have then not only responsibilities to your team, but you have responsibilities as an employer as well. And you have financial responsibilities, the ATO, and all these institutions from the government, etc.
Oh, the
So
admin thing, part of the business.
all
It's not so
ex-
nice.
oh no, it's not at all. So I thought, in order to prepare myself for this, big step, I'm gonna learn, with the consultant company, the technical part, etc. But I need to prepare from a personal level. I need to prepare myself very well. So I started a three-year journey into coaching. So I decided to learn professional coaching And I was also looking for where to do some mentoring. That's how we met on the mentoring side. And that helped me a lot, not only on a personal level, but also on a professional level. Uh, I realized that I thought I knew a bit of coaching and a bit of mentoring until I started doing it professionally, and it's such a big difference, and it's so rewarding as well to see others grow and reach their goals because of that support. It gives me such a satisfaction that I wouldn't leave it for anything.
That's
So yeah, now as part of what I do, I still dedicate a portion of my time into coaching and into mentoring others.
Yes, and then and you have been very successful, and was one of the question that I had in mind to ask you, how was your experience mentoring? Because sometimes we want to help people so much, we do everything for them. But you said the magical word, the support, right? They need to want to, or have the willingness to do and achieve what they want to achieve, and having us and mentors or coaches supporting them and clarifying and helping them to clarify their ideas, what they really want, instead of doing for them, right? And they come as us, they see us and they have us as a sounding board for them. They can come, they can ask questions. We ask lots of questions as well, right? So that's the point. And could you see the difference in between the mentoring factoring there and the coaching as well?
Absolutely, yes, yes, and you perfectly said that it is what we provide as coaches or as mentors is just that support. As coach is about helping them realize the potential that they have, and as mentors guiding them into what they need to do, but it's them who need to do it. And only on Sunday, a person rings me, and I said, after a minute or so, I said, sorry to interrupt you, but what is exactly what you are chasing? And she says, I have a son. He's 21 years old, and this is what he wants. And I said, sorry to interrupt you again, but why am I talking to you and not to your son? He's the one who needs to do the job. He's the one who needs to start with this phone call, not you. You know, a person who wants to get some coaching or some mentoring needs to show that they are the ones who are willing to do the big task, the big job to change.
That's right.
So I said, please ask your son to give me a ring, and I'm happy to have a chat with him, not with you. And yes, then the following day, yesterday, he rang me, and yes, we had a good chat. But and the first thing that I said, do you realize that it's you who is going to do all this change? I will probably just support you, guide you into what you need to do, but I'm not going to give you a magic wand for you to transform.
A magical
Not
pill
like
that
that.
you just swallow and everything is beautiful, right? At the end of the rainbow.
Yes,
A lot of
yes,
work to do, and especially for newcomers, right? Coming to a new country. I see lots of complainings about newcomers complaining, said, oh, the government should be doing this for us, should be doing that for us. Australia should give me opportunity. No one is to give you opportunity. You must create them. And if you came to this country, if you came because you wanted, make things happen, right? No one is there waiting for you. Say, oh, you are here now. I will help you because you are a newcomer. Poor you. We put ourselves in that situation, right? So of course there are other situations, and there is situations where people are in danger. They need to come. They need to move here. But when you have the decision to move to a new country, it's your decision. right? And normally I ask my clients and the mentees at time, I would say, if I had to go to your country and I arrive there, not knowing anything about your country and applying for jobs, would you give me a job straight away? Of course not. You don't know
No.
me, right?
Mhm.
And then, oh, because they doubt about my certifications, my qualifications, we don't know you. So you're
Mhm.
saying you're showing a paper that could be fake, right? Is something that goes around. So there is a system that we need to understand that is different. And even though back home, there is a question that I'd like to ask you. How long took you when you finished your degree to get the job that you wanted? Like the first job and the job that you wanted?
Yes. So one of the biggest differences in terms of market and job opportunities is in a first world country like Australia, for example, it's relatively easy to find a job in comparison to other countries like Peru, for example. It's a huge competition. So going to your question, after finishing uni, I had to be in the top 10% in order to get the university to offer me, a list of jobs, for the top 10% to choose what we wanted. And that didn't even secure a job, that secured a job interview only.
Okay.
So going through these job interviews is that I got a job into that was for my internship, first internship, second internship, and then my first uh, uh, job as a graduate, as part of the graduate program. So that's how I started, and I was probably lucky or had the right research done to select the employer and the area that I wanted. Um, I I did a good interview and got that job. And to be honest, I didn't go through that pain that probably most of my friends at uni went through, realizing that that's not what they wanted at work. I was sort of lucky
Lucky
to.
or you made yourself to be there. You have to
Yeah,
make yourself good to be between
yeah,
the 10%, right?
exactly. That was part of a 5 year training, and dedication, and also the research into what I wanted to, where I wanted to land, where I wanted to have my interview. And I went into that company, finished my graduate program, and continued. I was there for 7 years in total. So didn't go, as I said, through that pain that most people go through. I did find several of my friends at uni uh, changing work for several years, one after another, and took them years to find, the right job, the one that they like. I did enjoy my all my uh, employers and the jobs that I had.
So you made it, you anticipated all your work you had to do before you finished uni to be among the 10%. So you could get a job, at least a higher possibility to get a job straight away. So where your friends probably had, oh, can wait for later, can wait for later. And then later came too late then. Right?
Yes.
Because then you finish a university. It's like in Brazil as well. You need to be very competitive. And when I say to people, sometimes even taking holidays, you may come back and not having a job anymore, right? Because the competition is very high. So very difficult, very, very blessed here in Australia,
Yeah. It
right?
is. It is. I remember I used to have a manager in Peru who was saying when assigning a task, his favorite phrase was, "Can you this? Can you do this task? because if you cannot, I can bring someone else paying them half of your salary to do this task.
Oh my
That
goodness.
was, yeah, that
Like
was
how is it pressure that you had to do it? Yeah, that's something that we don't have here. That's what we
exactly,
have hoped, right? So,
yeah.
um, Danielle, if you had to start your journey again as a young mechanical engineer, would you go through this whole process of migrating, and what would you do differently if you had to do differently?
If I could go back with that knowledge that I have now, I would look for someone uh, I who can guide me into, doing some coaching or mentoring or both. Um, yes, discovering myself, discovering what I like to do, the potential that I had within me, how to build my career. Definitely would have avoided a lot of uh, not pleasant experiences. Would
That's
have shortened my career as well, make it more effective into, getting things done.
yes. And you talked about something that I have been saying a lot is regarding your personal development be hand by hand with your career development. And many newcomers, when they move to a new country, they are so crazy to get the first job or to get into an opportunity, and they forget uh, that they are in a new country and they are very detrimental to their lives to get that job. And you mentioned now discovering yourself and having the time to know what you want, your values, and your goals for your life would make your life much easier to achieve what you wanted and make more straightforward to you. So that's something that I have been saying a lot, and that's why after leaving Kaleidoscope, I decided to develop my own and design my own mentoring program where I have the component of personal development. Who are you? What are you doing here? Where do you see yourself going? And then career comes as together. It's a lifestyle that you choose to have based on what you want for your life. It's not career and a life separately, right? So is what you have found in your life now that you are coaching people and see the importance of having this clarity.
Absolutely, perfectly said, Cema. There is a coaching model where you cannot have something without being who you need to be to have it.
That's right. Being ready.
And exactly. And the job is something that you have, having the job, having to do the task, etc., having the employer, having the opportunity, etc. But being is that personal development that you talk about, without working hand by hand, together, these two, you cannot progress, you cannot succeed. And you need to be working professionally in your career and at the same time personally, in yourself.
That's
Yeah,
right.
very well said.
Yeah. So if you had to give an advice to the newcomers wanting to come to Australia, because now government is just announcing the new wave of newcomers that would come here to help with the shortage of professionals. So what do you just say to the newcomers wanting to come to Australia, the ones who have skills and the ones who are here that could not yet connect with their career or transition to a new career, or even they are fed up with what they have done until now and they want to discover something new. So what would you tell for the ones outside of Australia and for the ones inside of Australia?
Yes, for the ones outside of Australia, uh, probably to look at both the career side and the personal side. Look for resources in both areas. Who in terms of person or organization, can help you finding the right career path for you to go into your area of experience, and develop professionally. And also at the same time, simultaneously, as we spoke, is about, getting resources, organizations, people to help you go together in that journey of personal development to adapt to a new society, a new place, a new culture, etc., to succeed in your career. And even more important, if you're coming with, with a family, because they also need to be part of that journey with you.
That's right.
And for people who are already in Australia, and so many that I have found, maybe most times when I take a taxi going to the airport to go to site, I go to site every second week for 3 days. Um, I talk to the taxi driver. More than half of those conversations made me realize that the person driving is a professional, is an engineer, is a doctor, a lawyer, etc., who migrated to Australia, and in many cases who gave up because of sending so many applications and seeing nothing. No one called them for an interview. No one gave them the opportunity to work, and they said, "Okay, this is then my new profession, being taxi driver." And they've been doing that for 5 years, 7 years, after giving up on their dreams of, continue working in the electrical engineering or whatever the profession they had. And I talked to them and I said, if you gave up, just reconsider. There is still a possibility, and it's up to you to look for these resources, and everything is possible. You just need to find the way and the right people, having the right attitude to decide what you want, and then giving it a go with, looking for those, connecting with those resources.
That's right. That's right, Danielle. So a very powerful message, because many people, they give up very easily, right? And the most difficult part was to decide to come to this country, because leaving everything behind is something that is painful, right? And realizing that you have left for something that you believed would be better and not really getting there is a frustration. And living with that frustration every day to remind you that you failed, it's something that destroys your soul, destroys you as a person, as you feeling that you are someone.
Yes, yes, absolutely. Especially if you have young kids. So, Dad, I want to study something. What did you study? Oh, I studied, mechanical engineering. And why do you drive a taxi, or why do you have to, clean houses, or why do you need to, cook in this, restaurant? And
That's right. And it's painful. And the thing is, doing this kind of jobs, until you get your feet on the ground again, it's fine. There is no big deal there. We know we all need to pay the bills, right? But the question is not having a plan to move away from that, and really go back to your goals, your dreams, and see how you can achieve them.
exactly, working is a very, broad word. You can be getting paid for doing what you love, or just, being frustrated just to get the money that you need to survive.
And survive is a very tough word to swallow
Yes.
every day. Yeah,
Yes,
very, very tough.
absolutely.
That's right. So,
Yeah.
Danielle, thank you very much for coming. It was my pleasure having this talk with you. I knew it would be very, very nice and full of good insights. And thank you very much for sharing your journey with newcomers that want to reconnect with their career in Australia, especially engineers that we have many in this country. So thank you very much for that.
You are welcome, Cema, and thank you very much for this invitation. I highly enjoyed having this conversation with you, and hope to see you again soon.
Yes, thank you.